Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. I did have some requests after my first craft room tour to do a little bit more in-depth tour and look into some of the drawers that I have in my room. So I wanted to do that today. But first off, I'm just showing a little bit on my desk, and I do try to keep things on my desk that I use a lot. So my blending brushes, some washi tape, my glue and the little glue holder there, my paper towels, and some more washi tape. And then this is actually the arm that I put my phone in when I'm filming videos of making cards. I also usually have a cup of coffee with me. And this is my Create Your Own Ending mug from the Brutus Monroe store. I love creating on my Tim Holtz glass mat. It just makes things so easy to clean up. And I have these little drawers up here on my desk that I keep some things in. And on top of them I have my mini Misty. I have my little Martha Stewart scoring board. And then I also keep my regular size Misty up there as well. And I use these things almost every time that I craft, so they are right here at fingertip length. I have some tape on there to help open the door a little bit easier, and I did tape a sticky grid sheet to the inside of that, and that helps keep my paper in where I want it to be without having to use the magnets all the time. But I do have magnets up here in case I need them. So let's take a look in some of these drawers. Over here in this little drawer I have a lot of my inks that I use a lot. So I have the Brutus Monroe embossing ink and the Brutus Monroe alabaster white pigment ink, the alcohol lift ink, some perfect medium, and my Versamark ink pads. In the drawer below that, I have a lot of my black ink pads that I use. So the Brutus Monroe Detail Raven ink, which you can use for Copics and watercoloring. The Ranger Archival ink, and then the Gina K Amalgam ink, which is also really good for Copics. And it's a very nice black crisp ink, so I love using that one a lot too. And the drawer below that I have some more inks. So I have my StazOn Black, I have my Simon Says Stamp Barely Beige, which I use for no line watercoloring, and my Lawn Fawn Yeti, and then the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black, and my re-inker for the Brutus Monroe Raven ink. So in the next set of drawers, I have some more inks and some other things I use a lot. So over here I have my VersaFine Clair ink pads, and I have those out because I use those a lot for stamping sentiments and things like that because they have a really nice crisp image. So I'm starting to build up my collection of those, but I use those a lot for sentiments. So I have basic colors like black, brown, and of course purple. And then this drawer I have the stamps that I use on the back of my card as my little signature stamps. So I have that cute little chick there with the nurse cap on, and my little Italian post stamp, and a little chick that is in a cupcake. Here I have the Nuvo embossing ink, some alcohol prep pads because I use those to clean my work surface sometimes, and then my embossing buddy pads and my magic powder bag from Brutus Monroe. Some pom-poms that I use sometimes just for little inkings or chalk, and some little tiny brushes for detailed work. And these little brushes with the little edges on them that are kind of like miniature tiny Q-tip things are really good for putting glue into really tiny places. And then my ink blending handles, and then these little Fantastics blending brushes too. So over here in these drawers I have some Post-its, and I use those for masking off projects or sometimes using when I'm doing ink blending. I have clear blocks, my water brushes, and then just some other random things like blending sponges, scraper tools, palette knives, that kind of thing. Over here to the right, I have some of my embossing powders that I use a lot. So I have some gold, clear, white. Those are the ones that I tend to use most often. I have my other embossing powders over in a different drawer that we'll go see later. Then I have my Brutus Monroe Squeaky Clean stamp cleaner up here as well, and my Squeaky Clean dispensers. One that has water in it that I use for watercoloring, and the other that has stamp cleaner in it. So we'll go ahead and check out under my work area here. I have my Tim Holtz Tonic paper cutter right there. This is one of my favorite paper cutters. And in these drawers I have some scissors, and then I have some rulers down here. And down here at the bottom I have just a bottle of water here. I have some rubbing alcohol behind that. And then in this little basket I have my label maker and all of my supplies that I use to keep my stamps and dies organized. So these little CD pockets I use for my small dies. And then I have these larger pockets that I use for my large dies and my stamp sets. So I keep those in here just to be ready for when I get new supplies in to keep it organized. And I recently did take a ream of paper to Office Max and I had them cut it down to a specific size, which fits right into those stamp pockets, so it makes it really nice. I have my Creative Memories little cup holder and trash bag here, and I've had that probably for about 15 years and I still haven't changed the little trash bag here. All I really put in are paper scraps, so I just empty it out when it gets full, and I haven't had to change the bag yet. On the other side over here, I keep some baby wipes. I have my Heat It tool, which I like to use to dry inks and things like that. And then I have my little Tim Holtz sidekick that I use for die cutting, small items. And then I just have some cutting mats here, and some other random tools that I don't use a whole lot, but they are there if I need them. I have my bigger paper cutter down there, and my big square tool behind that. This area to the left of my desk, I have some little containers over here. I have a little notebook that I put ideas in, and then I have my smaller dies behind that. So I keep them labeled. I keep the original paper from the package if it has what the die looks like when it's cut out, and then I keep them in the top part there. The little drawer below that, I have the bigger dies. So some of my Sizzix ones I keep in their original packaging, and then everything else I put in those clear plastic pockets and label those so I have them right next to me when I need them. My stamp chamois, so I can have those when I need to clean stamps. Below that I have a drawer that has some large stencils in it. And then down the bottom here I have my basket of all my other stencils. So I do try to keep these labeled and organized so I can see what I have pretty easily. I keep my Pixie spray down here, so I have that when I go to use my stencils. It's a really great temporary adhesive to keep your stencils down on your project so you don't have water or other things leaking under the stencil. This is just a drawer I keep a couple random things in. Not super exciting. Okay, so let's take a look over here. I have this shelf hung on the wall here that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I keep all my distress inks on there. So my mini ink cubes I have on top in the tins that they're made for, and then in the actual shelf I have my distress oxides on the top and my distress inks on the bottom. I have them kind of divided up into color families, so the reds and pinks, oranges and yellows in the next one, and so on. And I have these little pails that I keep the blending foams in for each color family, so I can just pick that pail up and use the foams as I need them. And below that I have my embossing gun and my Sizzix Tim Holtz Vagabond. I really love this die cutting machine. It's an electric one and it works so well, and I think it looks really cute with all my vintage furniture here. I keep all the plates behind it, and of course I like to buy the purple sparkly plates. Then off to the right here I just have some straws I use for different ink techniques. I have my Brutus Monroe surface sprays, and then I have my embossing folders right here. Down here I have this cute little dog cookie jar that I keep my extra coffee filters in that I use for embossing. And then I have this 3-tiered wire organizer that I have some paints in. So up here I have some acrylic paints, my pouring medium, the distress paints. In this middle section I have all my sprays, so distress sprays, different shimmer sprays, lots of that kind of thing. In the lowest section I just have regular acrylic paints down there. So this drawer system I did find at Hobby Lobby, and I keep, these are some of my old school steel rule dies that I have up there. Some different accessories for my die cutting machine, like these little plates that allow you to emboss only in certain areas on your paper. And then some of the little Sizzix dies in there too. Down in these drawers I have some distress stains. I have those labeled. I think you can download these labels on the Ranger website for all the different colors. And then just some extra distress stuff that I have, little jars of media paste in there. Oh, there's Stella's tail. Over here I have my Brutus Monroe embossing powder, and I am a member of their Embossing Powder of the Month Club, so it's really exciting to get a new embossing powder every month. Just some different embellishments from Brutus Monroe in this drawer. I love those little bones. And then in here I have the Brutus Monroe Chroma glazes, which I just recently started using those, and I think they're really cool. So this row here I have all my other embossing powders, and I have them kind of organized. I have jewel tones, neutrals, and then dark embossing powders. And I used to buy these little plastic containers to put them in, and now I just keep them in the containers they came in, and I use those coffee filters when I need to emboss something, and that makes it really easy to get the embossing powder back in the jar. Hi, Stella. She loves to come up here and hang out with me. Down here I have some different media pastes and texture pastes, some snowflake paste. This is, the drawer I keep all that mixed media kind of stuff in that I can use with stencils. And then next to that I have glitter paste, so I have a lot of the Nuvo glimmer pastes in there and some embellishing mousse as well. I have some tags in this drawer, and I like to use those a lot with mixed media, so with the different pastes or stencils, that can be a lot of fun. So I have different sizes in there. And then I just have some more tags down here. And these I actually got a long time ago from Club Scrap, and they had a big sale one time with a bunch of different tags. So I kind of stocked up then, and I do use those every now and again when I need a tag. I know to look there first. These are some little ornaments I have from my 2 dogs that are no longer with me, Tommy and Doxy. And then just some more tags. So I have a lot of tags, and I just know to look through all these drawers when I'm looking for something. Just something I need to put, maybe a sentiment onto a card or something like that. This is probably my most favorite piece of furniture in my room. And this is something I found on Craigslist. It's from the early 1900s, and it came from an insurance company. So the drawers are perfect. They're sized for legal papers. So they're nice and shallow, and they're big enough to put 8.5 by 11 paper in. And I love to store ink pads in here. In this drawer I just have some memorabilia, so some things I want to save. But I do have quite a few drawers that I have ink pads in, and that's my favorite way to store them because it's one layer deep, so I don't have to move pads to look and see what I have, and the little mini pads fit perfectly in here. So I have them kind of separated by company. And this drawer I actually have some shimmery pads in, and then my collection of Stampin' Up! Spots there. This drawer I have some foam in. It's nice thin foam that I use for some projects. Over here I have some of the specialty paper that has come in my monthly hero kits, and I'm kind of OCD about labeling things, so I always put the month that it came in and I keep everything together. Here I have some cotton watercolor paper, and then just some regular white, kind of thin color cardstock I use for coloring on things. Oh, there's an empty drawer. This is just some different embellishments that have come from different Simon Says stamp kits, and then the cardstock that comes in those kits. So I do keep that separate from my other cardstock. And below that I just have some of alphabet stickers. Other things that I have in here, some shimmer sheets, which I really quite haven't figured out how to use those yet. Some specialty envelopes, so some of the shimmer envelopes that come from Simon kits. I have my vellum, some Nina Solar white photo paper, Bristol paper. I keep my vinyl here. I have a drawer of the sparkle pens. There's some of the vinyl. And then just different specialty cardstocks like Distress cardstock, Yupo's in there. And then this drawer I have my Misty accessories. So I have the creative corners in here, and I have my grid in there. And this is pretty close to my desk, so I just kind of turn around and it's right there. So I have all this stuff at my fingertips when I need it. Here I have some more ink pads. I got a lot of those when Pat Catan's was going out of business, and I got a really good deal on them. Some embossing plates, boxes, square cards, different small envelopes, doilies and card sets, boxes, some more envelopes. And down below this piece of furniture I have the dog beds. They like to sit here with me and craft. And then I have these boxes down here that have all my envelopes in them. So it's easy for me to turn around and grab these when I'm ready to go. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 2 of my craft room tour into more detail. If you enjoyed, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time!